This Easter, don't compromise your health for the sake of etiquette or tradition. Eat nutritious, low-calorie dense, low-fat, whole plant foods. Here's a calorie density chart that I created, and you basically want to eat from the first groups that you see on this chart. So that's the vegetables, the fruits, beans, and whole grains, because those will be the most filling foods and the most nutrient dense for the least amount of calories. For example, vegetables are only 100 calories per a pound of veggies. So you're getting full on the least calorically dense foods, and that's how weight loss is possible. That's how I was able to lose 48 pounds since March of 2020. So what's on the Easter menu? We've got vegan, oil-free quiche, scalloped potatoes, stuffed mushrooms, lemon roasted Brussels sprouts with carrots and pecans, and a delicious SOS-free carrot cake. This menu is sure to please, and let's get started. Hi, today we're gonna make a vegan, whole food, plant-based, oil-free quiche. And quiche is one of those things that when I became vegetarian 22 years ago, I didn't eat eggs and I missed quiche so much because quiche is typically made with lots of eggs and cheese. So this is a very healthified version, and the crust comes from Jill Dalton from the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, and I'll link her channel below. And the quiche filling part is just so delicious, packed with tons of veggies and lots of flavor. So let's get started. The ingredients you'll need for the crust are rolled oats ground into flour, almond flour, tahini, flax meal, rice vinegar, and water. The ingredients you'll need for the quiche filling are extra firm tofu, onion, mushrooms, garlic, spinach, turmeric, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, oat flour, non-dairy milk, and cherry tomatoes. First, preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, you're going to pour 1.5 cups of rolled oats into a blender and ground it into oat flour. Pour that in a mixing bowl along with 1/2 cup of almond flour. You're also going to add 2 tablespoons of tahini and 2 tablespoons of flax meal. Next, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar. And this is the brand of rice vinegar that I like. It doesn't have any added sugar in it. Mix it all up, and then you're going to add 1/4 cup of water. My mixture ended up needing an extra 4 tablespoons of water. You're going to press the dough with your hands and eventually form a ball. Press your crust mixture into a pie plate, and I'm using a Pyrex glass pie plate. You can add a pretty scallop design on your pie crust by pushing your thumb down all the way around the pie. Now you're going to bake your pie crust for 10 minutes. While the pie crust is baking, you're going to saute your vegetables. So first you're going to get 1 small onion and dice it up, and you're going to add it to your pan, along with 1 tablespoon of water to water saute your onions. It's 10 minutes later and your pie crust is ready, so you're going to set that aside to cool. Now back to my onions. I'm adding 1 extra tablespoon of water to prevent the onions from sticking. Next, chop 8 ounces of mushrooms and add it to your pan, and you're going to saute for about 5 to 7 minutes. The next thing you're going to do is add 3 cups of fresh spinach to your mixture, and you don't need to chop the spinach, you can leave them as whole leaves. So you're going to cook your spinach for about 1 to 3 minutes until just wilted. You can sprinkle with salt and pepper if interested, and you're going to add 3 cloves of garlic. I'm using minced garlic. You're going to remove the mushroom spinach mixture from the heat, and you're going to set it aside. Now you're going to press all of the water out of 1 block of extra firm tofu. And the way I did that was to wrap it in paper towels and to put a heavy pan over it. Next, you're going to crumble your tofu and place it in your food processor. Add 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, 3/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You can adjust that amount if you'd like. You're also going to add 1 tablespoon of non-dairy milk and 2 tablespoons of oat flour, which I got just by blending up rolled oats. You're going to process your mixture for 2 minutes, and here's the finished product. Pour it into a small bowl along with your spinach mushroom mixture. Now pour your pie mixture into your pie crust and smoothen it out with a spatula. You're going to slice in half 1/3 of a cup of cherry tomatoes, and you're going to gently press them into your pie filling. Now you're going to bake your quiche for 30 minutes at 375 degrees. And I basically kept my oven on this entire time since I baked my crust at 375 as well. It's 30 minutes later and your quiche is ready. You want to let it cool for at least 15 minutes before cutting into it. Time to enjoy your delicious whole food, plant-based, oil-free quiche. How is it?
I love it.
Today we're making cheesy scalloped potatoes, and this comes from Dylan at Well Your World, and I'll link to their channel below. But it is made with whole plant foods. It is oil-free, salt-free, and sugar-free, so completely SOS-free. And it is a very nutrient-dense meal, and it is low-fat, and it is totally delicious. I made this during Christmas time for my family, and they loved it. Also, it's good for any holiday and any time of the year. It's great for potlucks, gatherings. It's just a crowd pleaser. And I'll put a link for Dylan's recipe in the description, and let's get started. The ingredients you'll need are Yukon Gold potatoes, a yellow onion, water, cashews, nutritional yeast, minced garlic, mustard, onion powder, lemon, pepper, turmeric, cumin, and paprika. First, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Next, you're going to use the slicing attachment of your food processor to thinly slice 3 pounds of potatoes. I used a 4mm slicing blade, but you can use a 2mm blade if you want your potatoes to be thinner. After slicing your tomatoes, you're going to slice your onion, and I used the 2mm blade for my onion because I wanted thinner slices. Now you're going to make your sauce. So in a high-speed blender, you're going to add half a cup of cashews, 1.5 cups of water, half a cup of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of mustard, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, the juice from half a lemon, 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, and 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. Blend it all up until smooth and creamy. So now it's time to assemble your scalloped potatoes. You've got your potatoes, your onions, and your sauce ready to go, and I'm using a 9x13 glass dish. So first you're going to lay out a thin layer of the potatoes. It's okay if your potatoes overlap or if you put one on top of the other. Next, you're going to lay out half of your onions. Now you're going to pour half of your sauce. Time to add a second layer of potatoes, followed by the second half of your onions. Then you're going to add your third and final layer of potatoes, followed by the second half of your sauce. This is how it's going to look, and now you're going to put it in the oven for 90 minutes, but first you're going to cover it with parchment paper and foil paper. Set your timer for 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes later, and you're now going to remove your dish from the oven, and you're going to remove the parchment paper and foil paper, and if necessary you can use a knife to unstick it. Now you're going to put your dish back in the oven without the parchment paper and foil paper, and you're going to bake for 10 to 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes later and your scalloped potatoes are ready. These are the healthiest scalloped potatoes I've ever had in my entire life, and they're really delicious too. You can add cracked pepper on top if you'd like. Time to enjoy! Hi, today we're going to make stuffed mushrooms, and this recipe comes from the Crocs in the Kitchen, which is a YouTube channel, and I'll link their channel in the description. And this recipe is made with whole plant foods, and it is oil-free, salt-free, and sugar-free. And I modified the recipe just a little bit, so I will put my modified version of the recipe in the description. Let's get started. The ingredients you'll need are baby Bella mushrooms, a red onion, raw cashews, nutritional yeast, Italian seasoning, smoked paprika, sage, garlic powder, silken tofu, lemon juice, and soy sauce. First, you're going to wash and dry 24 ounces of baby Bella mushrooms, and then you're going to remove the stems. You're going to use the stems for the stuffing mixture. Chop up the stems really well, and then you're going to want to chop up the red onion. Place your mushroom stems and your onions in a saute pan and heat over medium-high heat. I'm not adding any water to this, and I'm not water sauteing because the mushrooms will release a lot of moisture. But once most of the liquid has been released from the mushrooms, you can turn off the heat. Now you're going to add the following items to a high-speed blender. Half a cup of raw cashews, 1/4 of a cup of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning, 1/4 teaspoon smoked paprika, 1/4 teaspoon sage, 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1 12-ounce block of soft silken tofu, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. Now blend it all up, and during the blending process, I stopped the blender about 3 times just to scrape the sides as shown here. Now pour your creamy filling mixture into a bowl, and you're going to add your mushrooms and onions as well, and you're going to mix it all up and store it in the fridge for about 15 minutes to firm up a bit. Next, you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 15 minutes later, and we're taking our mixture out of the fridge, and we're placing our mushroom caps on a parchment paper lined baking sheet, and we're adding a spoonful of the filling to each mushroom cap. Our mushrooms are ready to go in the oven, so we're going to bake them for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. It's 30 minutes later, and our stuffed mushrooms are ready. These mushrooms are so full of flavor, they're very delicious, and I highly recommend you try them. Today we're making lemon roasted Brussels sprouts with carrots and pecans, and this is a very nutrient dense, low calorie dish. It is made with whole plant foods, and it is oil free and salt free and sugar free. It comes out of the book The How Not to Die Cookbook by Dr. Greger, and I highly recommend this cookbook for anybody, especially beginners. This is what we'll be making today, and I will put a link to this book in the description, and also the recipe will be in the description as well. So let's get started. One of the ingredients you'll need to make the lemon roasted Brussels sprouts is a savory spice blend, and Dr. Greger has a recipe for that as well in his book. So I'm going to show you how to make that first. The ingredients you'll need are nutritional yeast, onion powder, dried parsley, dried basil, dried thyme, garlic powder, dried mustard, paprika, turmeric, and celery seeds. I didn't have celery seeds, so I just omitted that, but you can add it to your spice blend. You can get an airtight container and add 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 1 tablespoon of dried basil, 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of dry mustard or mustard powder, 2 teaspoons of paprika, and half a teaspoon of ground turmeric. You'll also want to add half a teaspoon of celery seeds if you have it. Close your container and shake it up real well. Your savory spice blend is ready to go for your lemon roasted Brussels sprouts recipe, and you'll only need 2 teaspoons of it. Now onto the Brussels sprouts. Here's the recipe you'll need, and I'll also put it in the description of this video. The ingredients are Brussels sprouts, carrots, savory spice blend, raw pecans, and blended peeled lemon. First, preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, after washing your Brussels sprouts, you're going to trim the outer leaves, and you're going to cut your Brussels sprouts in half lengthwise. You're using about 1 pound of Brussels sprouts for this recipe. Next, you're going to get 2 carrots, and I've skinned mine, but you can leave the skin on if you'd like. And you're going to cut them on a diagonal, and they're going to be about 1/4 inch slices. Place them in a parchment paper lined baking pan along with your Brussels sprouts. You can use the silicone mat instead of parchment paper if you have one. Now you'll lay out your Brussels sprouts and carrots in a single layer so that they cook well. You're going to sprinkle 1 teaspoon of the savory spice blend, leaving 1 other teaspoon to sprinkle on after roasting. Your veggies are ready to go in the oven, and you're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. While the veggies are roasting, we're going to blend up a peeled lemon. And the reason why we do this instead of using lemon juice is that you get more nutritional benefit from using the whole lemon. So you lose out on the fiber and all the nutrition when you just use the lemon juice. And Dr. Greger states this in his book. Here's our blended lemon. I removed the seeds with a spoon because those remained in the blender after blending. It's 10 minutes later, and it's time to remove your veggies from the oven and stir them up so that they can roast on the other side for another 5 minutes. We're putting them back in the oven and setting the timer for 5 minutes. I decided to leave my veggies in for an extra 5 minutes, so 10 minutes total, because I like them extra roasted. So this is how they look after 10 minutes. We're now sprinkling 1 additional teaspoon of our savory spice blend, and we're pouring 1 tablespoon of our blended peeled lemon over our veggies, along with 1/3 cup of raw pecan pieces. And here's our finished product, our oil, salt, and sugar-free lemon roasted Brussels sprouts and carrots with pecans. This is so nutritious and delicious, and you'll feel really good after eating this. Now my youngest daughter, Emily, is gonna give it a try. What do you think?
Great.
Wow. You like the Brussels sprouts? They're good and they're healthy. You're a healthy girl. You gonna have another one? So good. Wow. Good. I know. I really like it too. I see you, Chloe, over there grabbing a Brussels sprout. The carrots are good too, huh? Hi, today we're making a delicious carrot cake, and this comes out of the book Straight Up Food by Kathy Fisher, and it's a really delicious recipe. You can make it as a cake or as cupcakes. I've made them as cupcakes before and they come out really delicious. But basically it is SOS free, salt, oil, and sugar free. It's made with whole plant foods. And as a sweetener, Kathy uses dates and raisins. So I've made other whole food plant-based carrot cakes before, and this recipe by Kathy Fisher is definitely my family's favorite. So it's really delicious, packed with flavor. The recipe is in the description, and let's get started. First, we're gonna make the frosting so it has a chance to cool while you're making your cake. You're gonna need medjool dates, cashews, vanilla, and water. You're gonna add 8 or 9 medjool dates to a high-speed blender, and I added 9. You're also gonna add 3/4 cup of raw cashews, along with 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1 cup of water. Blend it all up until it's smooth and creamy. Put your frosting in an airtight container and put it in the fridge while you make the cake batter. Now for the cake part, you're gonna need medjool dates, almond milk, shredded carrots, oat flour, vanilla, raisins, baking soda, baking powder, walnuts, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and a very ripe banana. In a small bowl, you're gonna add 1.5 cups of unsweetened non-dairy milk, 7 or 8 medjool dates, and I used 8, half of a very ripe banana, 1/4 cup of raisins, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Mix it up and set it aside for 15 minutes. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, you're gonna blend 1 3/4 cups of rolled oats into an oat flour. Add that to a bowl along with 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves. Whisk your dry mixture, and now you're gonna make your wet mixture. Place the milk, dates, banana, raisins, and vanilla in a blender and blend until smooth. Add your wet ingredients to your dry ingredients and mix well. Now you're gonna fold in 1.5 cups of grated carrots, half a cup of raisins, and half a cup of chopped walnuts. Now time to pour your batter into a baking dish, and I'm using an 8x8 Pyrex glass dish. You can see that I'm not using any oil or parchment paper because I'm using a glass dish. And if I was using a metal pan, I would just use parchment paper. Basically, you want to stay away from oil. Now bake for 40 minutes. It's 40 minutes later and your carrot cake is ready. You're gonna let it cool for a while before putting the frosting on. After your cake completely cools, you're gonna pull out your frosting from your refrigerator and you're gonna add it to the top of your cake. You're gonna smoothen it out with a spoon or a frosting tool like I'm using. This is optional, but you can add chopped walnuts on top of your frosting, and you can also add unsweetened coconut, which is what I did. Your cake is ready to enjoy. It's time to cut it up and enjoy the deliciousness of this cake. It's seriously so good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a very happy Easter, Passover, spring. And if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe so that we can get the word out about the whole food plant-based lifestyle. Thank you so much for watching and happy plant eating.